What's good? It's your boy Fanon. All right, we are 2 weeks out from a fight that I've been looking forward to for a while, and that is Jeff Horn, the WBO welterweight champion, against the former unified 140-pound champion, undisputed and unified 140-pound champion, Terence Bud Crawford. It's going to be taking place on June 9th. So I think it's time to start talking about it a little more readily. I don't see a lot of publicity coming out for the fight other than what's coming out of the mouth of Jeff Horn. But hey, man, he's talking that good stuff, so let's talk about it. But the thing that he's saying here is, hey, I like Jeff Horn a lot, but I think he's a little bit off. And definitely Glenn Rushton's a good bit off in comparing beating Terence Crawford and beating Manny Pacquiao. As much as Terence Crawford is, Manny Pacquiao is a legend in the sport and has won won titles or held belts at 8 different weight divisions. I don't think that he might not have ever been at any point in his career better than Terence Crawford is right now. And he's definitely not right now, or last July, not on the same level that Terence Crawford is on. So and I'll go through what Jeff Horn's trainer says. When he says this, it's like, hey, man, I appreciate you selling the fight because without a doubt, Bob Arum is not promoting it very much, and I'm worried that this fight is going to actually do pretty poorly because it's going to be on the ESPN Plus app. But then again, I don't know what kind of stats they're going to have for this app and how readily those numbers are going to be available. Regardless, he's still the one. The fact that he compares him to Manny Pacquiao, I think, is off, and also the fact that they keep bringing up these horse-haired gloves, and the fact that they believe that Terence Crawford is cheating with these horse-haired gloves. Yeah, but although we're complaining about these horse-haired gloves, it's kind of funny because Brian McIntyre, the trainer for Bomac, said for Bomac, who goes by the name Bomac, the trainer for Terence Crawford, said that he didn't think that they weren't using horsehair gloves. So I'm not quite sure what all this stuff was going on with that and why they keep insisting and bringing it up, other than maybe to promote the fight. But we'll see. Now, as far as this Terence Crawford, let me go through what these guys said, and then we'll discuss it. Jeff Horn's trainer, Crawford is just a man. Horn beat a legend. Glenn Rushton, trainer for WBO welterweight champion Jeff Horn, believes his fighter will once again upset the long odds in the coming weeks. On June 9th, Horn will travel to the United States to make a mandatory defense against Terence Crawford at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. Last July, Horn pulled off a major upset when he secured a 12-round unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao at the Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, Australia. The win gave him the WBO world title. Crawford is a massive favorite to unseat Horn for the belt, but Rushton explains that they have trained extremely hard to shake things up. He says Horn is 20% better in this camp than he was for the win over Pacquiao. When I look at Jeff between rounds, it's almost like I'm looking at myself, Rushton said to the Courier Mail. It's a spirit thing. We really do connect on a deep personal level. So if I say to Jeff that I really need him to dig deep in a fight like he did in the 9th round against Manny Pacquiao last year, I know he'll give me everything he's got. We haven't trained for a fight against Terence Crawford. We've trained for war. We're going to America to knock Horn out. We have to unbalance him physically and mentally, and Jeff is ready to do that. Rushton has a lot of respect for Crawford, but explains that Horn has already beaten someone of a higher standing in June 2017. Crawford is a brilliant boxer, Rushton said. He has all the skills. He can switch stances. He's equally effective going forward or backward. He has laser-like precision with his punches. But at the end of the day, he's just a man. And in Jeff Horn, he's up against a boxer who last year beat a legend. Jeff has got the self-belief, the boxing skills, and the heart as big as Suncorp Stadium and a granite chin. Put them all together, and Terence Crawford is facing a pretty potent package. Now, as far as all that goes, yeah. I mean, I think that I was one of the very few people that gave, outside of Australia, that gave Jeff Horn a shot to beat Manny Pacquiao. And when I say this, I know I'm going to say this and get a comment on my comment section. I believe that he did beat Manny Pacquiao in Brisbane when they fought. It was a close fight. It was a rough fight, but I think that he might have done. If somebody would have said it was a draw, I would have been okay with it. If it would have been one, a point for Manny Pacquiao, I wouldn't necessarily agreed with it, but I could have seen it. I could have seen that. But this gigantic robbery that everybody was screaming, that so many people, not everybody, but so many people were screaming, I just don't see that. I don't see it. But in this situation, he really does have almost everything going against him. He has the skill factor against him. And by that, I mean that Terence Crawford is a significantly better boxer than he is. And I think that there's multiple ways that Terence Crawford can win this fight. Terence Crawford can just outbox him. I think it's going to be very difficult for Jeff Horn to be able to rough up Terence Crawford, because I just don't think that he's going to be able to get himself in the position very often to do it. Also, I don't really think that Jeff Horn hits. I don't think Jeff Horn has a lot of power. And I know that there were some reports out about Jeff Horn, having knocked out sparring partners with a right hand from hell. Shout out to the subscribers that send me from Australia to send me those reports. I definitely appreciate it. But I don't see him. But he will have the opportunity to mix up with him. Because unless Terence Crawford just decides that he doesn't want to do it. If Terence Crawford just says that he wants to outbox this guy for 12 rounds and walk away with the belt, that's what's going to happen. Because he's just too good a boxer. He can just pretty much just pot shot and move for 12 rounds if he wants to win. At least that's the way that I see it. But the biggest risk for Jeff Horn, and I've said this, my prediction for this fight is going to be the cuts. It's going to be the cuts, because Jeff Horn, in the last 3 fights, Jeff Horn is cut and bled in the last 2 fights, he's cut and bled in both of them. And also, he got cut. He got his eye opened up in sparring. That's the 3rd time that I was thinking of. The first time was when Manny Pacquiao opened his face up, and that was over one eye. Then the second time was when he got cut, had a nasty cut in sparring, right? So that's the second time. And then the 3rd time was in the fight with Gary Cochran, where he opened that cut up, and I think he opened up another one as well. And it was just a really, really ugly situation. And to tell you the truth, he didn't get. And I know Gary Cochran is a bigger guy. I think that Gary Cochran was fighting at 154 pounds and came down to 147 pounds to fight Jeff Horn. Something like that, or he fights at 154 pretty often, and then he came down to, and then he just decided maybe a fight or 2 before to go at 147. But he's a pretty big guy, and that fight was, for the first several rounds, was a close fight, and I thought honestly that Jeff Horn might have been losing that fight to Gary Cochran, but then he adjusted his game plan. He went to boxing, if I recall correctly. He went to boxing. And he cut Gary Cochran up, and he won. So, and I think that somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have this in front of me. I think it wound up stopping on cuts from Gary Cochran or something like that. But, at the end of the day, he did look. I mean, he won the fight against Gary Cochran, but he did not look terribly impressive against Gary Cochran. And I don't know if he beats Manny Pacquiao the second time if they get back in the ring. But Terence Crawford, not only does he have the advantage of being a better boxer, he also has the advantage of fighting in the United States. This will be the first time that Jeff Horn has fought in Vegas. It's the first time I think he spent his career between Australia and New Zealand. But so it'll definitely be the first time that he's, on this spot, in this spot on the planet. So he's got to deal with that. He also has to deal with the fact that, so I believe that some of the politics that might have assisted him in his victory over Manny Pacquiao. And when I say assisted him in his victory over Manny Pacquiao, I mean even getting the fight with Manny Pacquiao, getting the fight in Australia with Manny Pacquiao, getting a fight in where he's 150, basically where he's Manny Pacquiao's a blown up lightweight. Let's just be real. Manny Pacquiao's a blown up 135 pounder. If Manny Pacquiao he's a super athlete, and he's got very, very good power, very fast hands. He's a southpaw, which makes a lot of trouble for people. He's a very, very talented fighter, but he is 135. He is a 135 pounder. At this point in his career, it'd probably be very hard for him to get down to 135 pounds, but he could fight at 140 pounds. I doubt very seriously that he would have much trouble fighting at 147 pounds. He's not really a 147 pounder. But I think Terence Crawford is significantly bigger than Manny Pacquiao. And at this stage in his career, he's just a lot better. He's just a lot better fighter. So going into it, so you just don't have all of those advantages for Jeff Horn like he had the last time. And he doesn't have a 2-fight option. I don't believe he signed an option with Bob Arum, because it seems as if Gary Lonergan, the guy that's talking about the horse-haired gloves, right, is really kind of ticked off with Bob Arum, and the fact that Bob Arum moved this fight from the original date, which would allow them to make several $1 million on pay-per-view in Australia, to a date where they couldn't show it on pay-per-view, unless that's changed. Somebody let me know if that's changed, right? So I doubt very much Jeff Horn is going to sign that option. And my understanding is, shout out to the Boxing Clinic and more. I didn't actually see this article or where this information came from, but the Boxing Clinic and more is pretty, they're pretty sound. He's pretty sound in his sources. So, I'll roll with him on it. That there's no rematch clause, or that might have been Boxing Eagle, but there's no rematch clause for the champion in this fight. Now, how do you work that out, right? How do you get a situation where you don't have any rematch clause and you're the champion? And to boot, the fact that he had to fight Terence Crawford at all, where the mandatory was named before he had ever made a voluntary defense, that just tells me, man, that, Bob Arum's magic and the WBO's magic, it's in full effect, man. It's in full effect. So I have to assume that the judges, if we can all agree that sometimes, judging can be a little funny anywhere and everywhere. Sometimes the United States gets a lot of slack for judging being funny in the United States, but come on, man. I just saw some scorecards out in the UK that were bananas. I've seen scorecards in Mexico that were bananas. I mean, it's just, come on. It is pretty much anywhere where you have promoters that, that are able to influence the selection of judges, whether or not they're picking judges that they know are looking for a particular style that favors their fighter, or whether it's just out and out, hey, man, we're just going to try to slide you something so you could do what I want you to do. Whatever the case is, man, let's just acknowledge that some of that stuff, it appears as if that happens. So you're dealing with Bob Arum in Top Rank on the ESPN Plus app in Vegas for the WBO title. Jeff Horn's going to need a knockout to win. Now, that said, I don't believe that he's going to get it. And I think his worry has to be those cuts, because my prediction for that fight is that it's going to end on cuts. Similar, like what happened to Jeff Horn in his last two fights, except for this time, is really going to get stopped on cuts because he's not going to open up Terence Crawford. He's not going to cut Terence Crawford. He's not going to bloody Terence Crawford. I would doubt highly that there's going to be any blood shed by Terence Crawford in this fight. His face will look clean as a baby's behind when he walks up out of there. However, your boy, on the other hand, is going to be cut up. Now, that could be the reason why Dean Lonergan, not Gary Lonergan. Dean Lonergan is up in such arms about these horsehair gloves, man. And so what he said was about it. He says that this is Lonergan. He said, and when Terence Crawford is nursing his broken eye socket, or let me back up because that's a little bit into it a little bit. Yeah, the article is that Terence Crawford is risking a broken jaw by fighting in horsehair gloves. Horns promoter warns. Dean Lonergan, who looks after Australia's WBO welterweight champion, has been lobbying the Nevada State Athletic Commission to ban thinly padded horsehair gloves. Crawford plans to wear against Horn in their title fight in Las Vegas on June night. It emerged last week that the Medical Advisory Board of Nevada State Athletic Commission recommended in 2006 that they test the effects of both horsehair and foam gloves on fighters' health post-bout, but it remains unclear if the testing was conducted. When Terence Crawford is nursing a broken eye socket or possibly a broken jaw because Jeff is bigger, stronger fighter here, maybe he will think twice about wearing these gloves again. By choosing to wear these gloves, you're not only going to get one outcome for this fight, and that will be more brutal than it needs to be. Lonergan warns that they should have banned him 12 years ago. But anyway, look, that's got to be some posturing, because I can't believe that when people act like they care about the safety of another fighter, like, I don't want you to wear these gloves because it's going to hurt you. No, you're worried about those gloves because it's going to open up those cuts on Jeff Horn's eyes. Because if there is some truth to the fact that the horsehair gloves would do that, and I believe there are. I mean, just like one of the points that Dean Lonergan brings up in this deal is, he says, if they haven't done the comparison test, I tend to take the words of Floyd Mayweather, Jeff Finnich, and Barry Michael, world champions who face these gloves, who say they're dangerous. And if the comparative testing hasn't been done, I'm struggling to understand why, when it was recommended that they should. Of course there are gloves that can affect differently. We saw that with Antonio Margarito, but I think it is because he had plaster up underneath that glove, and sooner or later it got closer and closer to those wraps. But, I won't pretend to be an expert on boxing gloves. However, I'm thinking that they want to wear bigger gloves, as much foam padding between those cuts, between Terence Crawford's face and Jeff Horn's very sliceable face. So, anyway, it is what it is. I'm looking forward to this fight. I really wish that they would do a better job of promoting this fight. I'm doing videos on it. Some other people I've seen do videos on it. But this is a fight that really, this is a terrific, exciting fight. I think Jeff Horn although I am favoring Terence Crawford in this fight, I think Jeff Horn has shown that he's a legitimate, top tier welterweight. And this is going to be for a fight where with the WBO belts on the line. And hopefully, if Terence Crawford wins it, or actually if Jeff Horn wins it, it could open up him to fight the other guys over the PBC if he doesn't have the belt. If he doesn't have an option with Top Rank. And if Terence Crawford wins, he's already been very adamant that he wants to go over and fight the other champions, whether that's Errol Spence Jr., Keith Thurman, the winner between Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. But this is just a really good fight, and I think the deepest at the top, the most solid fighters at the top of a division in boxing is the welterweight division. So I wish it was getting more publicity. I'm definitely wishing Jeff Horn well, wishing Terence Crawford well, but that's just how I see the fight playing out. And with that, I'm out. Peace.